What's good? It's your boy Jay, that's me. We're going to get into TNA Impact from August the 7th, 2025. An okay show. This show primarily focused on building up the card for next week's Emergence, which seems like it's going to be an okay show for the most part. We're still on the road to Bound for Glory, so I do like that. And Emergence seems to be okay. But that's what this show was primarily about. So we kicked the show off with Trick Williams. He got a really good reaction. He said that he's going to beat Moose in front of his mama at Emergence. And then Trick called Emergence PLE, which was funny. And he said Moose comes from a family of bobbleheads, which was hilarious. I do like that. That made me laugh. So Moose came out. He wanted to respond, but he responded with hitting Trick with the microphone. Trick went down, and then Moose was about to set up and hit Trick with a spear, but Trick gets out of dodge, and that was it. So this makes sense. I do like this. I do not expect for Moose to win at all next week. He should lose, and then after that, send them to maybe Scott D'Amore or whatever. I don't know. Again, I'm not a fan of Moose. I'm not. So, I don't care. I really don't. I used to care about Moose when he first was in TNA. I think that was back in 2016. So about 9 years ago. But Moose now, nah. I'm just not invested in him anymore. I'm ready for him to go away. I really am. Again, Moose, Brian Myers, Eddie Edwards, Eric Young and his crew, Sami Callihan, who TNA is trying to push still. Get rid of those guys. Give those guys to Scott D'Amore or the Indies or whatever you're going to do. Or make some of those guys producers, but move on from these guys. Move the fuck on, please. Moving on. So, Gabby LaSpaza, she welcomes back Gia Miller. So, Gia's been out of action since she was attacked at Slammiversary by Tessa Blanchard. So, Gia threatened to fucking kill Tessa Blanchard, which is kind of funny. She was real serious, so that was good there. I enjoyed that. Then she brought out Joe Hendry, and then Joe Hendry said that he'll make Mustafa Ali believe in the main event, which does not happen. He is not a believer. That being Mustafa Ali. So that's fine there. I would assume we're going to get a match with Tessa and Gia Miller in due time. Obviously, it doesn't need to happen at Bound for Glory at all. That would be a joke of a match. Again, we all know that Gia Miller is actually a wrestler. She's been doing it for years. She's an indie wrestler. And, on TNA, she's just a backstage interviewer. So, it's fine. It makes sense. So, there is that. Moving on. So, this leads us into Mike Santana. He's backstage with Sami Callihan, who's worthless as shit. And they agreed to a match at Emergence, basically, which I don't care about. We all know that Mike Santana is not losing at all. He's going to be built up to dethrone Trick Williams, and this is going to start his ascension to that process. Well, to begin that process. So I look for Sami Callihan to lose next Friday, and him finally either going to maybe AEW or maybe back to the Indies or maybe deal with his own promotion, or hell, he might even go to Canada and work for Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. It doesn't matter what Sami Callihan does. I just want him off my fucking television. Then Eric Young, he shows up with the Northern Armory. And then he calls Mike Santana a failure for losing at Slammiversary. Eric Young is the next person who needs to go as well. Again, get rid of Get rid of the Northern Armory. They suck. And, move on from these clowns. Seriously. Move on from Eric Young. Eric Young, Sami Callihan, Moose, Brian Myers, and the like. They're constantly killing TNA. They just are. Moving on. This leads us into the first match of the night. It was a double countout. Steve Macklin versus Jake something for the TNA International Championship. I didn't like the finish, but it is what it is. It does make sense. Clearly, they're going to set up for their actual match at Emergence. So, there's that. And for whatever reason, Frankie Kazarian was out on commentary for this match. Whatever, who cares? Moving right along. So, Mance Warner and Step DeLander, they go into Santino Marella's office, and they end up having sex in the office, which is kind of cool, I guess. Whatever. Moving on. So Cedric Alexander, he is backstage. He's talking about the importance of winning the TNA X Division Championship. And now he's wanted to be a champion for a while. He says that he's still in his prime. His prime is now. And then he puts over Leon Slater. That should be a fun match. Cedric Alexander versus Leon Slater. Maybe we could see Cedric turn heel. Obviously, they're not going to have Leon lose. He's only had the title for maybe about 3 weeks now. So, no, that's not going to happen. So, but the match should be fun nonetheless. Moving on. So, this leads us into Zia Brookside and Ling Lee, a.k.a. Zia Lee, defeating the Elegance brand, which is M and Heather by Elegance. So they lose, which makes sense. I do like this. Ash by Elegance was pissed about this later on in the show, which is kind of funny. So, there's that. Moving on, this leads us into the TNA injury report by Tom Hannafin. So, Casey Navaro is going to be out with a disclosed knee injury. So, the hometown man, a.k.a. Diener, has bruised ribs, and then Joe Hendry, they've been cleared for Joe Hendry and Mustafa Ali, they've been cleared for their main event. So, that's fine there. Moving on. So, Santino Marella and Ariana Grace, they walk in on Mance Warner and Step DeLander getting it on, which is kind of funny. Good shit there. So that's fine. Makes perfect sense. Where's this going? I don't fucking know. Moving on. Let's lead us into the first class penthouse segment with AJ Francis and Casey Navaro. So Casey Navaro, he announced that he has a torn ACL, and he's gonna need surgery. He's gonna be out for a while. So an ACL tear. He's probably going to be out for the remainder of the year and probably a little bit of next year. So I'm looking at him probably coming back to TNA if he can. Probably maybe around April of next year. But, we wish him all the best. But an ACL tear is no joke. It's no joke. I'm actually going to Google and pull up real quick. How long does it take for an ACL tear to heal? I would imagine it's going to take a while. So, yep, he's going to be out for basically 8 to 12 months. So, yeah, I was right. So, wow, that's a bummer. And I'm a fan of Casey Navaro. I really am. So, that sucks. But thankfully, he can come back and hopefully he can be better than ever. I'm a fan of Casey Navaro. He's really good. He's been good ever since he was on the Indies. And hopefully TNA can use him right. It seems like they already have something planned for him and AJ Francis when Casey Navaro comes back. So AJ Francis basically kicks him out, says that, like they say in the NFL, next man up. So Rich Swann shows up, who's been going for about a year. He got into some DV stuff a while ago, I think, or just some life drama, basically. So AJ Francis let Navaro know that his services will no longer be needed since he just had a backup who was filling in for Rich Swann while Swann was hurt. So basically, Navaro, he wanted to know why he was being kicked out and everything else, and he basically opened up about how he put AJ Francis ahead of himself, taking bumps for him and everything. So AJ Francis sees it differently. He's been carrying KC for the last 9 months. So basically, Rich Swann and AJ Francis, they kicked the crutches from underneath Navaro, and AJ Francis says that he was happy that Casey Navaro got injured. So there is that. That's fine there. Again, they have a built-in feud between Casey Navaro and AJ Francis, which actually does make sense. So that's fine. I assume they're going to make Rich Swann and AJ Francis first class a tag team again. So that's fine there. So good stuff there. Moving on. Mara Slade, a.k.a. Dakara Jackson, she wins her debut match, which was short. So she hits a reverse lung blower, which is sick for the 1, 2, 3. I like that finish. That kicks ass. Good stuff there. Hopefully they continue to push her, which they probably will. Again, she should be your babyface of the Knockouts division, not Indy Hartwell. I'm going to say that again. Mara Slade, a.k.a. Jakara Jackson, should be the damn babyface of the Knockouts division, not Indy Hartwell. Indy is not good. She doesn't need to be in this position. Just stating facts. Then this leads us into Jacy Jayne versus Ash by Elegance. TNA Knockouts Championship. So basically, it ends in a DQ. So, Ash Marsha came in, basically, and just a massive brawl ensued. So, Fatal Influence, they were there. The Inspiration, they were there. And the rest of the Elegance brand, they were there. So, it was just a massive brawl that broke out. That's fine. Makes perfect sense. Good stuff. Moving on. So, this leads us into Santino Marella and The Nimos. They have their segment. So, Santino, he calls out The Nimos to tell them that they're not getting their contractual obligated rematch for the TNA Tag Team Championships. So Santino then suspends Nick Nemeth for Emergence because of his actions last week for attacking Diener, his sorry ass. So he's going to give the tag title match to the Rascals, which is fine. And Ryan Nemeth, he threatened to sue, which is kind of funny. And then Santino Marella deemed him as not guilty, and Ryan's going to have to face the hometown man at Emergence. Man, fuck this shit. This is a waste of fucking time. Just whack and lame. Again, I like Ryan Nemeth. He's okay, but I'm not a fan of Diener. Enough. Diener and all these other guys that they're still pushing, they need to move away from these guys. Send these guys to Scott D'Amore. Let Scott D'Amore take these guys off of TNA hands. Moving on, this leads us into the main event of the evening. Mustafa Ali defeats Joe Hendry with the help of the Older Four. So basically, the match was interference. All the members of the Older Four got involved. From, Tasha Steelz, the Good Hands and all of them, they got involved. Joe Hendry continued to fight back and everything. And Mustafa Ali ended up hitting the 450 splash for the 1-2-3. The big tall guy, Agent Zero, got involved. He hit a big boot on Joe Hendry. And then Ali hit the 450 for the 1-2-3. So Joe Hendry lost. It seems like Joe Hendry is on his way out of TNA. I'm not sure when his contract is officially up, but he has lost several matches. And it does seem like his time with TNA is basically coming to an end, which actually does make sense. So I would imagine maybe Joe Hendry sticks around for the remainder of the year up until early next year. So he'll probably be officially NXT bound sometime next year. I want to say early next year, maybe between February and April of next year. So WrestleMania season next year, we could definitely see Joe Hendry pop up on NXT permanently. I think that's fine, in my opinion. I think it would do great in WWE. I really do. So we'll have to wait and see how things play out. But Mustafa Ali winning, to me, is fine. I mean, they are pushing him as a heel. He is a really good heel. And again, Joe Hendry seems like he's on his way out, you know. He lost to Frankie Kazarian not too long ago. And now he just lost to Mustafa Ali. So, you know, it is what it is. But this episode of TNA Impact was okay. I did like the Trick Williams stick, you know, him making fun of Moose. That was funny right there. Mike Santana still being pushed is great. So, I mean, him, you know, facing Sami Callihan, to me, it's totally beneath him. But I get why they're doing it. It's something to do. And then once Sami loses, it's time for him, I guess, to just go off right into the sunset. Same thing with Eric Young. Hopefully, you know, same thing happens to him. Again, TNA is looking for a TV deal. It is time for them to get rid of their dead weight. So, you know, Frankie Kazarian, Moose, Brian Myers, the list goes on and on and on and on. So, yeah. But what did you guys think of TNA? Like, comment, subscribe, peace.